What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and in this video, we're going to be checking out the new Honor 400 5G. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the Honor 400 5G. Now when Honor reached out to see if I wanted to cover this phone, I was really excited about that because Honor is actually quickly becoming one of my favorite brands in the mobile industry, and for a really good reason. Honor just packs their devices full of value and features, and even though this phone is meant to be a mid-range device, it feels like a flagship. Now before we get too far into things here with the Honor 400 5G, let's see what all comes included in the box. So here is the box, and as you can see, it's a slim box because there is no USB wall adapter included, and it's actually pretty minimal here. We're getting a SIM card removal tool, and we're also getting a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. Now with the Honor 400, we're getting a very large 6.55-inch display, so a really big display here on the phone, and it looks amazing. So it does feature AMOLED technology, and we're also getting a 120 Hz refresh rate here with the device, so everything runs super smoothly. But seriously, you can see how much color we're getting in this display, and it really does pop. Now in addition to that, the display itself is 1080p, so everything's very crisp and clear here. We're also getting a PPI of 446, we're getting a 20:9 aspect ratio, and we're also getting an 88.8% screen to body ratio. So pretty small bezels all throughout here on the phone, and I also like how the bezels appear to be symmetrical. I suppose maybe that top bezel is a little bit slimmer than the other bezels, but again, it's pretty much an all display design here. And then up top, we have a hole punch for the front facing camera, and that front camera is 50 megapixels. Now stay tuned for later on in the video, as I'll be showing you a bunch of different photo and video samples from the various cameras here on the device. Now the Honor 400 5G is offered in multiple storage configurations. This version of the phone does come with 512 gigabytes of storage, and that's really a ton of storage. Now there is no microSD card expansion, so that definitely makes me even more glad that we are getting so much storage here with the device. And there's also no wireless charging here, which is a bit unfortunate, but I suppose since this phone is meant to be a mid-ranger, it does make sense. We are, however, starting to see more and more mid-range phones that do have wireless charging, so that is still a feature that I miss. Now with this device, we're getting an in-display fingerprint sensor, and it's super fast and responsive. Let's try that one more time. And you can see how quickly that works, so definitely good to see. And then we're also getting face unlock as well. So I do appreciate that we have multiple methods here for getting into the device. Now even though this is a mid-range smartphone, the cameras are really good. So we're getting a 200 megapixel main camera and a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. And then in addition to that, we're also getting 4K video recording with both the front and rear cameras on this device. Now here's the camera app, and we're on the main camera right now. Then from there, we can go over to 0.6 to access the ultra wide. And with that, we can fit a lot more content into a single frame here. We can also go over to Pro mode and access a lot of various tweaks we can make. So you can adjust the white balance, ISO, all of that. Definitely awesome to see. And then going over to video, like I mentioned, you can choose between 4K and actually 720p as well, in addition to 1080p. So plenty of options there for resolution. We also have portrait mode, so if you want to get those nice blurred out backgrounds, you definitely have that ability here. And then since the camera is 200 megapixels, I believe that's why we have the ability here to crop in when we're taking portrait images. So we of course have 1x, but then we have 0.5, 2, and 3x. And typically for this to actually look good, a smartphone would have to have a telephoto camera, but because this is 200 megapixels, we're kind of getting the best of both worlds here. Then flipping around to the front-facing camera, there's me right there. We can take portrait selfies or standard selfies, and if you're doing standard selfies, you can even crop out a little bit to take a group selfie. Now this device is packed full of AI features, and if you know me, you know that I love AI. Now, one of the features that especially stood out to me is called image to video. And in fact, Honor has really been hyping up this feature, so let's give it a try. So basically you can upload your image, and then from there, the phone turns it into a literal video. So we'll go to add image, there we go. And then you can choose between vertical and horizontal. So we'll go to start generation. The video generation is now in progress, and it actually moves along pretty quickly. And here's the result, so let's see it. Whoa, that really looks natural. Let's play that again. That's really impressive. Now, of course, there's no audio or anything, but I could certainly see this being helpful if I needed B-roll, maybe not so much of myself, but of something else moving. Let's try one of this palm tree. And here's the result. And it literally looks like a palm tree that's moving in the wind. That is amazing. Now there's even more AI features, and I'm actually going to create a separate tips and tricks video where I show you all of those, but here's a feature that especially stood out to me. It's called video creation. This phone actually has a full video editor built in. So this actually reminds me a lot of CapCut, which is what I use to edit my videos. I'm used to smartphones having basic editing tools built in, like the ability to shorten a video, but not something like this, where you can actually edit an entire video, layer it, you can add other clips, and just tons of different options here. So people literally pay, including myself, pay for CapCut. And the fact that we're getting such advanced software built into the phone really gives this phone even more value. But let's now take a look at some camera samples from the Honor 400 5G. Now I'll let the quality of these images speak for themselves because you can literally see the photos in front of you, but the cameras on this device do an excellent job, especially considering that this is a mid-range smartphone. Now for all of these photos, this is literally the first attempt at taking the photo. It's not like I retook it until I got the perfect image. This device really takes the stress out of photography because you can literally just take the photo and you'll know that it's gonna end up being good. And like I mentioned before, that 200 megapixel camera especially comes in handy if you wanna zoom in on stuff. So it really does seem like the telephoto cameras that you'd find on other devices, especially mid-rangers, really is becoming obsolete. You're better off just putting in a very good 200 megapixel main camera like we're getting here, and then simply just digitally zooming in to get great results rather than taking any other approach. But again, I really appreciate how the cameras here can handle even the most difficult of situations and you're still getting really good looking images. And that's definitely a combination of really great software here, but then also good hardware too. But let's now take a look at some video samples from the Honor 400 5G. This is a 4K front-facing test video using the Honor 400 5G. Definitely curious to know what you think about the video and audio quality. And here's a 4K test video using the main rear camera on the Honor 400 5G. We have very quick autofocus in video mode, which is great. And I've now switched over to the ultra wide camera. So it is pretty cool that you can do this in the same video clip. So you don't have to stop the video and then switch to the other camera and then restart it. You can literally switch it in the same clip. Now as far as performance goes with this device, we're getting 8 gigabytes of RAM paired up with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 3 processor. So this is certainly a mid-range processor from Qualcomm, but also a recently launched processor as well. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and I'll show you the scores from that test right now. But I got a single core score of 1145 and a multi-core score of 3120. So definitely some solid scores here. This phone really does run fast. You wouldn't even notice that it's not a flagship device just because it is free of lag. It just runs super smooth here. And I think for most people, they don't necessarily even need a device that has a Snapdragon 8 Elite in it. A processor like the Snapdragon 7 Gen 3 is plenty good. And then with this device, we're getting a very large 5,300 milliamp hour internal battery, but along with that, we're also getting 66 watt fast charging. Now, of course, there is no USB wall adapter included, so if you do want to get that full 66 watts, you are gonna have to use a wall adapter that actually supports that. So maybe the wall adapter that came with your laptop, for example, that might be the best. But I definitely recommend though, making sure that you are actually getting a charger that can fast charge this phone, just because there's no reason to put yourself through that and have to wait for a long time when this phone can recharge extremely fast. Also with this device, we're getting IP65 dust and water resistance. The phone does have NFC, so you can use it for tap and pay. And then we're also getting stereo audio as well, which means that we're getting audio out of both the main speaker and the bottom of the phone, but also the earpiece too, when doing things like watching videos or listening to music. Headphones are also very light, so you're gonna have no issue putting these headphones on. So video content looks amazing on this phone with that really large display, with it being AMOLED as well, and also those great colors too. And then the speakers are surprisingly loud as well. Not only are they stereo like I mentioned, but they are very loud and sound really good. So this is definitely a great phone if you just wanna sit back, relax, and enjoy some content. But taking a closer look at the hardware of this device, it is made of plastic, but honestly, that is not a bad thing. I really like this material on the back of the phone because it doesn't really pick up any fingerprints at all. So that's always a great thing to see. I like these matte finishes. It really is a pretty simplistic design as well. We're getting the camera module, flash, and then just the Honor logo or word mark right there. And then on the right side of the phone, we have volume up, volume down, and the power button. Then on the left side of the phone, we have nothing. On the top, we're getting the other dual speaker, we're getting an IR blaster, and then also a noise canceling microphone. So if you do want to use this phone to change the TV channel, for example, you potentially could do that here, depending on your TV, I suppose. And then on the bottom of the phone, we have the SIM card slot, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the main speaker. But in conclusion, I really like the Honor 400 5G. I think this phone is an excellent mid-ranger, and Honor's really given us a ton of value here. Like I mentioned, this phone has so many different features that I am going to be making a dedicated tips and tricks video, and in that video, I'll be showing you the AI features as well, and a bit more in depth. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. But this is Kevin here. This is the Honor 400 5G, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.